Let's go ahead and officially get started.
They're from all over the place. This is fun.
I know, I was going to say it's so wonderful to see so many new and familiar faces and representing all areas of North America. So it's always awesome to bring together our Canadian and US municipalities. So officially, hello and welcome everyone to our fireside chat with the City of Guelph, Ontario. The topic we're going to be covering today is a good one. It's on building lasting community involvement and how we really move beyond kind of one-off consultations. For those of you I haven't met yet, I'm Sarah Horton, and I'm the Director of North America here at Go Vocal, and I'm joined by Tracy, Engagement Advisor at the City of Guelph. It's worth mentioning that Tracy is moonlighting for the next year and a half as the city's downtown revitalization advisor, so we're going to get back to that later. Awesome. A couple of housekeeping notes before we dive in. So this session will run for about 50 minutes. The majority of it will be our fireside chat with Tracy, but we'll have plenty of time at the end for live Q&A. Please drop your questions in the chat or the Q&A box anytime, and we'll make sure to try to get to as many of those as we can. All right. So a bit of context before we jump in. Guelph has been a leading example of how municipalities can integrate community engagement into the policy development process. And Tracy has really been at the center of that work at Guelph for many years. Have Your Say Guelph, which is the name of their engagement platform, moved to Go Vocal from its previous legacy platform back in March 2025. And the upgrade wasn't just around, procuring a new tool, but it really did unlock a different way of working for city staff. Much of that upgraded approach came as a result of the expanded engagement toolbox. So, really giving Guelph the ability to reach their community in person at pop-ups and online via lots of different methods, including multilingual surveys, idea mapping, and common ground. Plus AI summaries, of course, tracing back to what residents actually wrote. And they've gotten really great participation, over 5,000 named contributors, and then thousands more participating anonymously. So, to kick off our conversation, I wanted to zoom in on one project in particular, and that's Guelph's Downtown Infrastructural Renewal Program. And that's the starting point for our chat today with Tracy. This is a decades long, multi phase program. Over 2,000 community members have participated. And the exciting part is that Tracy, who ran engagement on this project, is now in a temporary role actually delivering on that renewal work. So the person who built the relationships in the community is for now the one executing on their feedback, which I think is a fun challenge. So, Tracy, that brings me to you. What is it like being on the receiving end of your own engagement work?
Well, I have a whole new appreciation for project managers now, after years of working with them and coaxing them and everything now I'm on the decision making end and it's a whole other world over here.
I love it.
Uh, but like I find having read all of the comments myself, having been for the last 5 years talking about this project with the community, I think I'm able to make really good decisions with that community lens in mind. And this is why I've always asked my project managers, yes, we'll give you a summary, but you need to read the data yourself. You need to be there yourself, listening to it, because there's so much context and depth to what the community needs. And when we're making all of these decisions, this thing or that thing, uh, you really need to understand why the community wants to go that way. And that context is necessary to make the right decisions. So, yeah, here I am on the deciding side
I
for a
love
while anyway.
Yeah, you bring up a good point around the nuance of engagement and that feedback and really diving deep enough that you can understand those nuances. And it reminds me of something that you've told us that really stuck with me, and that's kind of the theme of engagement, community engagement, whether it's answering a survey or coming to a meeting, being just a gateway or a sampler on your way to being a more invested community member or citizen. So a sampler to getting involved in small decisions, maybe up to big ones, and then who knows, maybe even running for council someday. So I would love for you to kind of talk us through that framework and way of thinking and how you've seen it applied.
Yeah, this is something I've been developing for the last couple of years. And when I say I've been developing it, it's we've been developing it as a city, but I've been a really passionate driver in what I've been calling the spectrum of engagement or spectrum of civic participation, where I mean, yeah, it's easy to get people involved and take a poll, right? Take a poll, maybe election day, you go out and you check a ballot and you say, I've done my civic duty and made a huge impact for the community, sure, but it only takes like a little bit of time. In this spectrum, we're looking at everything from surveys to workshops to being on an advisory panel to being, advisory to council and then maybe running for city council, right? There's all these different ways people can drive the community to become what they want it to be. And, we as engagement professionals, we get to see a lot of their passion for what they want the community to be. And it's kind of on us to help bring them along to get deeper and deeper involved because everybody has an interest for their community. Why, sure, not all of them have the time and capacity to move a little bit deeper, but the opportunity's there and they can make a stronger impact, right? So you can see already I get excited about this topic because in my mind a community is people. It's not about policy. It's the people that make a community what it is. And when they're really involved and telling us what they need and helping to develop those policies, those decisions, those initiatives, whatever it is, the community is a better place for it.
I love that. A true mission driven engagement advisor. What are some of the tactical ways you help move residents along that spectrum? So maybe they show up or they do something virtually asynchronously for the first time. What are some practical ways engagement practitioners can either notify people of those opportunities or create such an experience that they want to get more and more involved?
I mean, it's an art, not a science. It's still something we're evolving, but I have to say, having an online platform where people register and become users, you get them registering because they're interested in this one project and they want to follow up on this one project. Well, we now get to turn back to those people and say, you're interested in this project. We've got this project over here that you can make a difference in, and here's all the ways you can make a difference in this project, right? So a lot of it is letting people know about the opportunities available to them, about like, honestly, people don't think that we're listening. People don't think that there's an opportunity for them to make an impact. No, nobody asked them before. So just asking can help move people along. That's the biggest piece.
Yeah, I love that. Straightforward, but it's not easy. Not easy to.
Right? If only it was as easy as, knocking on every single door and saying, hey, look at all these things you can do in your community and think about what your community can be if your voice is heard at these different levels. Uh,
Mhm.
we would inspire so many more people to get deeper involved. But I mean, how long is the day?
Yeah,
An 8 hour
exactly.
day can't
Yeah.
hit all the households.
Right, right. Eventually, and maybe a decade from now, we'll look
Maybe a
back and
decade from
say
now. Yeah, yeah.
100% participation. Yeah. Awesome. I think you touched on something that's really interesting about Guelph's approach to engagement, really around people relationships. I know,
Mhm.
at least in our work, we encounter a lot of cities that are thinking about engagement through the lens of project by project, specific initiatives that aren't necessarily tied together. And it sounds like Guelph really has a people-centric engagement approach. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that approach and, how cities can maybe shift from that project type of engagement and starting from zero every time to really building that continuous, ever-evolving relationship with their community members?
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have?
Lots of time.
Lots of time.
Yeah.
Well, so having a human-centered approach to engagement is kind of the first piece of the puzzle. Being able to design engagement that speaks to people, that answers to what they're interested in doing at the level that they're interested in doing it. Some people they don't really want to help us design the whole thing. They just want to tell us about the one piece that's bothering them, right?
Mm,
But some people really want to dig in and they're like, just give me the drawing pad. I will design the whole thing for you, and this is what I'm interested in, right? So um, having an approach that meets people where they're at in that way. And that's not just about physically, in the locations they're at, although we do try to locate things in different pockets around the city, but at that level of engagement, at the level of influence that they're interested in, and in a language and a style and a way that speaks to them, starts to bridge the gap in people wanting to come into the fold, right?
Mm.
Um, by building that trust, by becoming somebody that they're familiar with in that way that they're engaging on a project, we can sort of start to nurture the relationship. And this, it's all connected, right? This feeds into that spectrum of engagement, right? If we have a trusting way that we're engaging with them, we have a better chance of moving them along that spectrum. At the same time, having a deeper understanding of the people involved, the humans on the other side, right? We can do our job that much better. So we've been approaching this in a few different ways. Like if I if I had all the time in the world and I had no other priorities, everything else was just like put on pause for a while. I would take like 5 years and just sit down and cold call people and develop relationships with people in the community. And I mean, I don't mean friendships. I'm not going to people's birthday parties, but to get to know them and to get some insight into what these different pockets of the community and these different leaders in the community, like the lady in the third ward who loves to do food drives just for the community. I to tap into that person and understand what drives them, what they're really interested in, what would make this city the city for them. I would, as a human, as a person practicing this engagement process, I would automatically have like this little database in my head of who the people are and what they're looking for. We're always talking about community engagement professionals at the City of Guelph. We're like this encyclopedia of community insights because we
Mm.
don't have a big database of all the things the community wants. We hold those. Um, we should probably have a CRM, contact management system where we can kind of make these notes and share them with each other. We don't have a CRM. We don't have a CRM. We have like our contact list, and we have the people we go out for coffee with once in a while. But I've been trying to build one.
Yeah, if
It's
there's
on
any product
Excel.
people from Go Vocal on the call, that's something we could prioritize for Tracy.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. I'll send you my Excel with all the different fields that I think we need to be
Yeah,
able to build and manage these relationships and share the relationships, right? Because
yeah.
sometimes somebody working over in parks design kind of needs to tap into a certain subset of group. And like, I know who that is, and I can make that introduction. The problem is maintaining the trust, right?
Mm.
That what's the saying? Like trust takes forever to build and one little moment to destroy. And by sharing that relationship, the trust is a little bit exposed.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
I
there's so
think
many.
that the trust element is something US and Canadian cities can both align on for sure.
Oh, yeah, it's human. It's human, right? Everywhere around the world, cities are, and all government. A lot of people feel untrusting toward government and government decisions, but I don't know about you. I don't know about everybody else on this call, but I'm here every day. I'm here trying to make a positive impact in my community. And by having relationships, by speaking with people one on one, we can convince them that, hey, yeah, maybe they are looking out for me. It's not just a paycheck. I'm a public servant. I'm here for the community, and I go home joyful every day and thinking of like the impacts I've been able to make. Little moving the dial sometimes.
Yeah, I love it. Slow but meaningful, incremental work.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
Tracy, for the teams or for the engagement practitioners in the room who might be one person engagement teams or one person comp
Mm,
teams, um, the relationships that you're talking about building are obviously high touch, high impact, but high touch and require a lot of resources. How has the city of Guelph thought about augmenting this trust work? Can it be outsourced to consultants? Can it not? Any takes on, yeah, how to, as a lean team, reach this kind of level of impact?
Well, I mean, we are fortunate in Guelph. We've got three people full-time plus a manager overseeing the engagement. So we have a bit more muscle to throw at this than many other communities. But like the cities that I know of where there is just one engagement focused person, they aren't the only people doing engagement. They've got the project in many of those cases, the project managers run the engagement under the advice and the guise of the engagement coordinator or whatever the title is, right? And so it becomes this network of people, not just a team. It's a full resource network. So I could imagine a scenario where there's a community of practice in these cities where they just sit down and talk about the people involved, not best practices. And we don't need to talk about our KPIs from last year. Let's talk about that lady in Ward 3, and what drives her to do these things for her neighborhood and what she's trying to achieve and how we can help that with the policies and decisions we are making. That'd
Mhm.
be just an interesting discussion. I'd love to be a fly on the wall there. But by using the strength of the full network of people doing this work, of interacting with the community, you can kind of, if not share the relationship, you can share the insights that we're hearing. And you get to know who's got the relationship with who, so that when you need to access the soccer association leader, you're like, oh, I'll call Luke on that one, get an
Mhm.
introduction.
Yeah. Yeah, so important. So we talked a little bit about kind of this horizontal networking. Same question kind of goes for that vertical reporting line. What about city leaders, electeds? How do you share some of the anecdotes or the insights that you all have from being in such close community with residents? Maybe up the chain if they're not as close, or maybe they are as close in Guelph.
Well,
Please share.
Guelph's not all that small. I mean, same as anywhere, like they have their own relationships that we tap into.
Mm,
And I've had senior leaders come to me and ask about, what my connections are and what I'm hearing. To be truthful, we probably don't share those nuances up the chain as much as we could maybe benefit from. We do our what we heard reports, we use quotes, we will share little anecdotes about, how the engagement resonated with people and what that getting them excited about the project uh, helped us achieve in gathering feedback. But no, we don't sit there and tell stories. We don't have fireside chats with our senior
I'll have to
leaders.
send
Maybe we
this.
should.
I'll send the YouTube link after.
Yeah, I'm gonna pitch it.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. So many good takeaways, I think, from the section on building relationships with community members. I think even your earlier point of re-engaging folks based on what they've expressed interest in or participated before in the past is really tactical feedback. Anything else you want to share related to this section?
Mm. Oh, have I talked about the idea of data and collecting data and sharing it in a different way? Because it's
No,
kind of,
not specifically.
yeah, it's kind of connected. So if we have relationships with people, and that is really time onerous, right? Like it sucks the time. You start to have all these emails from people. I love my relationships, but sometimes you get too many emails from them just wanting information, wanting to connect you with things. It's all great. But to offset that time load, if we can think about the way we generate hold use data a little bit better, that also can feed into this just system-wide community insight. So I'm looking at ways to take all of our significant plans. We used to call them master plans,
Mhm.
significant strategic plans, and the larger scale engagement pieces and those pieces that really dig into community insight and trying to bundle them together and somehow get some sense making out of it
Mm.
in some way that is useful that we can query. Because just imagine the trust we can build with the community if we can say, so on this wastewater whatever project and on this, I don't know, soccer field project and on this active transportation project, we heard from all these different people this sentiment, this really key sentiment that people kept coming back to.
Mm.
We're going to action that, or we're going to use that sentiment and that understanding of the community need in this project. And we're starting from a place that the community has already informed.
Mhm.
Help us make that plan, that project, that initiative rock solid and locked in based on what we already heard across the entire community. When you
Yeah.
go project by project, which we all do, it's the job, you know, but project by project, you kind of have your blinders on for what you specifically need to make that decision. And when you can
Hmm.
look outside of the project a little bit more, you can get context, you can get more fulsome understanding of the root need. It's like five whys, right? Five what? Five whats? I don't know. I'm inventing a new thing on the fly. But you can dig a little bit deeper and oh, all these people are kind of saying the same thing. Why are they saying that? What are they actually asking for? And undercut cover the context, right?
Hmm.
So, you know, I've tried. I'm a prototyper. I love to just kind of dig in and press buttons and put stuff together, DIY, figure out a way to do it. I've tried to take data from probably 20 different projects. I started with qualitative data because we have Go Vocal and your AI sense making is out of this world for qualitative data. Um, so I tried to bundle it all together into kind of one project to try to get the AI sense making to understand the community sentiment on these different things.
Mm.
I tried it a few different ways. I mean, it works. It'll farm the data. It's there. But what I'm lacking is adding weight to the data. So
Mm.
some of these projects, 700 people engaged in, some of these projects, like 3,000 people engaged in, some of these projects, 40 people engaged in.
Mm.
And it can kind of skew with the different weights. So I have to figure that one out.
Yes, another
I've
one
got
we
I've
could
got
take.
16 months in this role, and then I'll come back to the engagement role. It'll be
Yeah,
stewing for 16 months.
I'll
I'll get
work
a
on this for
solution.
you in the meantime. Yeah, no, I mean, I think what you're saying is really powerful. It's more than just connecting the dots across different projects and getting kind of that surface level or high level takeaways, but really being able to achieve that full nuanced picture and connecting sentiment across different initiatives. So I think that that's really powerful and probably a need that resonates with a lot of folks that are here in the audience today. Okay, let's shift gears a bit.
All right.
I think this is something that we all deal with, engagement practitioners. The conversation being steered to one particular issue that's kind of dominating the conversation. So, I think in our chats you've mentioned, like no matter what you're asking about, even if it's about a playground slide over here, a chunk of responses are going to come back about affordable housing. And you're like, well, we weren't asking about that. But how do you handle things like that where you don't want to dismiss the participation? You don't want to dismiss people raising it, but you also want to harness and kind of channel that conversation productively.
I mean, that also fits back into that whole data sense making, understanding when these things are coming up across projects, it
Mm.
starts to show a theme, right? Yeah, affordable housing, city governance, affordability, like general high taxes, safety and well-being, like these pop up. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. These pop up all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's in context. We do a lot of projects where sometimes it's in context, but sometimes, it's why are you spending your time and energy on putting in a park when there are people without houses in your community, and the public servant response is we can do both. You know,
Mm.
we have a
Mm.
big enough staff. we have people dedicated to this and we have people dedicated to that, and we can keep going. Um, when we hear that in or read that in surveys and it's asynchronous, that's one thing we noted. We get that feedback to the appropriate departments in our what we heard reports. We say we did hear some information about affordable housing or whatever the topics are, and this is what we did with it, and this is why it doesn't apply in this particular decision-making context, whatever. When we're in person, synchronous, in a workshop, in a open house, whatever we're doing. Some people call it a parking lot, where you just say, oh, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to put it over here. We'll get to it if we have some time, or that doesn't apply in this context. You know, thank you. Whatever, we'll move on. Um, I feel like those issues being raised, it's top of mind on people. People are like the world is on fire. There's so much to worry about right now, and these are the important topics. And yet they've come out to talk with us about a playground.
Mm.
Thank you. Right? With all these big things happening in the world, thank you for coming out to talk with us about a playground. It's important to acknowledge and validate and empathize with where they're coming from, that these other things are more important than a playground to them. But it also adds color and commentary to what we're hearing from the community. Yes, playgrounds are important for well-being and development, and it helps people maintain a lifestyle as they grow into adults, whereby they can manage a home of their own. All these things are connected. Um, so it's kind of, I've used this with you before, a yes and attitude is like these thing these things are real things that our community is struggling with and dealing with. And yet the solution isn't just to build another home. The solution is a full encompassing community. Let's talk about that. And
Mm.
a playground could be part of that, or active transportation network could be part of that. It all feeds into itself.
Yeah.
And also, I will get that information to the decision maker at hand.
Yeah. 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 Yes, and I love that. A little engagement improv. I feel like we should trademark that. It's so good.
That's what you get with the theater kid.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it
Um,
shows. It shows. We have a related question from Warren Waters that I'll go ahead and ask now. And there's lots of good questions in the chat that we'll get through or get to throughout. But this question's a bit related. How do you deal with cynicism that nothing will matter, or idealism that anything can be improved without adding unrealistic expectations or discouraging folks further? Great question.
so in my work on the civic participation spectrum, my partner in crime, Carrie from clerk's office, and I have a saying that apathy is boring. That that's the thing that we need to overcome. That people have been shut down too much. That there's too much noise out there. Why should they listen to me? I can't make an impact. And I don't have the solution. I don't have the solution that gets people past that road bump,
Mm.
that big brick wall, more than a road bump. But that's what we're working at. That's the nut we're trying to crack. And that is what gets people more and more involved. So we can do it kind of one at a time, having conversations with people. But I don't know, you guys in the chat, if anybody has like that one magic spell that you can do that suddenly gets everybody to see the light and how much impact they can have, I would love to hear about it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a tough one. But I think, the hyper local engagement opportunities start there, right? Maybe you can't change something citywide, state, countrywide, region-wide, but maybe you can affect street improvements in your neighborhood or, contribute to a Vision Zero project. Feel like you've
Mhm.
helped save lives. So I do think that that gets them maybe through the door to move along the spectrum further.
Mhm. There's one community close by, I don't know if I should name them or not, but they have a Love My Hood program that is actively out there talking with the community about, oh, you want to do a thing, you want to get this neighborhood level initiative off the ground, work with us. We will open the doors. We will help you, resource funding. We will help guide you and take away the red tape the whole way.
Mm.
That's huge. I've always been a fan of that type of program that leverages the community passion and power and lets
Yeah.
them drive the boat for a while.
Yeah, yeah, we have projects like that in the US under the Love Your Block program and
Mhm.
something similar. And I think those are always really key to bringing people in. Awesome. All right, shifting gears. So let's talk about election year engagement. Your municipal election is on October 26th. And from what I've heard from you, Canadian municipalities are really intentional about engagement planning around that season. And there's, actual mandated compliance around what you can and can't engage on. I think it's a little
Mhm.
bit less clear from a mandate perspective for US cities. So I'm curious, how do you think about engagement and engaging on community topics during an election year and election season?
And I would love to hear from more Americans because until you and I spoke about this, I had no idea there was that kind of difference. So it's the municipal act governs what we're allowed to do. But that's mostly about integrity of the elections. So candidates can't campaign at city-run initiatives. It's kind of a separation of church and state that they're campaigning, and that's their thing, but it shouldn't impact decisions that we're making and work that we're doing active day to day. Nor can, we, as part of our 9 to 5 job, go to an active campaign event and participate in those, right? We need to keep no wearing t-shirts saying who we plan to vote for. None of that stuff comes into work. I mean, to me, a lot of that is common sense.
Yeah.
Um, but also what we can't do. So council is entering pretty soon, I think I should know the date, lame duck season, where they're not allowed to make decisions on certain priority items. So I think bylaws and strategic plans, that level of decision, they're just not allowed to make decisions on. And as we get closer to the election, that gets tighter and tighter and tighter. So basically, starting next month, the end of this month, like they're basically not meeting again. And when they do meet, it's more about just receiving information rather than making decisions. Um, we need to be mindful on a couple of levels about how we space out our engagement because we need to, if we need something to have this decision made this year, 2026, we need to have had that at council already last month. And so we need to plan 2 years out to be able to get it to the point of being at council in June. Same sort of thing because we can't have campaigning happen at our engagement activities. We have to be careful about what we're engaging on because if they are those high value, high interest policies like the affordable housing and affordability topics, like we are not engaging on that while people are campaigning on those same topics because it can skew our data so much. So there's nothing saying we're not allowed to. There's no legislation about that. But the data gets skewed if all of a sudden the community rhetoric, whoever's following one specific candidate saying one specific point of view, they're going to hear that over and over and over again in what they're following, and that's going to skew what they're actually thinking about that project, that decision, whatever. So we want to remove that decision from that intense timeline that somebody's campaigning on that subject. That makes
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that resonates, right? There's so much noise in the media about certain issues, and that can show up in engagement responses and really, yeah, pollute the data.
And the noise in the media, like it's hard to get people's attention, even if we're talking about something as simple as what should we do, a red slide or a blue slide? We don't usually engage on color, but something simple, something, tell us
Yeah.
about your favorite bird. We're not going to be able to get people's attention to engage with us because there's so much media noise about the election. It's just lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we plan ahead. We work with our project teams to kind of space out the year and make sure that they get the information they need in advance of when that decision-making point in is, but in a way that holds true to the data and the process and has an outcome that we can uphold from that community engagement standpoint.
Yes, I'm hearing plan well ahead, well in advance.
Plan, yeah, and we
1.5
start
to
talking
two
about
years.
election in year two of a 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
You have
Awesome.
to.
Well, so many great insights. And I think, we have about 10 minutes left. I'd love to jump
Mhm.
into some of the audience questions.
Mhm.
There's some here, so we'll get to these, but also for those of you that are still with us, please do drop your questions or any comments for Tracy in the chat. Okay, a couple questions from Artie. What did you find to be the most effective engagement tool for the downtown project? How did you promote the opportunity in your community? I think there's so much downtown engagement going on across North America, so curious to hear.
Uh, so did I mention I'm a prototyper? I kind of made a name for myself on this one because I wanted to make to be fair, we worked with consultants, and our consultants did the open houses, the surveys, what I'll call the more standard things. They did great jobs, but they did the more standard things. And because of that, I was able to take a little extra time and a little extra, stage carpentry skills. And I actually created life-size replicas or scale replicas of the different things we're talking about. And I think that not only did it get kind of media attention and got people excited, it was a playful kind of way to approach the engagement, but it helped interpret this technical information in ways
Mm.
that people could actually relate to. So I built a life-size model of a Ford F-150 out of
We
cardboard
need
so
to
we could
send
move
the,
it.
I wish we could do a share screen moment. We're short on time, but this needs to be in the follow-ups. This is why.
Okay. It's so good. I'll send it to you. Um, Cardboard cutout. I made it really playful, like little pop art kind of cutout looking, but full size. And then we delineated like pedestrian realm and travel lane and cycling lane, and we brought physical bikes so that people could feel what it's like to bike next to a patio and next to a Ford F-150. Like, is this enough space? Do you feel squished? Should we go a little bit wider? Should it go a little, like how safe do you feel right now?
Yeah.
And so we were able to have that level of conversation with people who don't care about the technical thing. They were just brought in because there was this cool looking truck thing and they wanted to find out more information about it. And lo and behold, they got to give really valuable information and we got good sized bike lanes out of that.
Love that. I love that. That is really a gold star
And we did that like
engagement
time
effort.
and time again throughout the whole process. When we could make something tactile and tangible for people, we did.
I love that. Okay, some more questions from Warren. Let's see. Why do professionals expect citizens to learn their jargon instead of speaking like normal folks? Yep,
My
exactly. And then,
people.
yeah, second kind of follow-up question. How to prevent engagement generally from decaying into salesmanship or, questioning project assumptions?
I want more context to this question.
Yeah.
I've never thought of engagement as a sales tactic.
Warren,
I,
maybe you can give some feedback in chat as she answers the first question
so
on
the first
jargon.
question, why do policy people think that? I mean, they shouldn't. I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't know why they do. I don't know why they do. Some of it is, we're taught in uh we're taught in policy schools. I did a master's of public service, and we're taught all this policy speak, and this is how thou shalt do the 10 commandments of whatever you need to put together into a policy. And somehow we feel like the community needs to be able to understand that as they read through the policy, which they don't. They don't. We can say bike in a bike lane rather than using an active transportation designated zone. Like bike in a bike lane. Right?
Yeah.
That speaks to everybody, even in a policy. But we like to sound smart, or we've all gone through higher education in which we get graded on that kind of language. The manager of engagement here, he admits he's the worst for this because he's gone through so much academia that it's hard to take that away. It's hard to take that away and talk like a human. This might be why the relationship model is so important, that we're actually out there verbalizing with people who have all these different interests, all these different capacities for understanding technical jargon or language influence in their lives, and it makes it real. And so when I like to think when I'm developing material for public consumption, I have little pictures of these personas in my head of who I'm actually talking to and what they need to get out of this information, how I can communicate it properly. So whoever gave that comment, I am with you, and I talk about that all the time, and I'm always redlining people's engagement summaries, going, no, just it's a bike lane. It's where they bike.
Yeah, writing in plain language is so much harder than it looks.
Yeah,
We could have a
yeah.
whole separate fireside chat on language accessibility, language justice, all of the things.
Ooh, yes, please.
Yes. Okay, awesome. Final question in here. How will continuing provincial regulatory planning changes affect engagement?
Provincial regulatory planning. Is that from an Ontario person?
Maybe.
Yes.
I was like, I don't know what this is.
Uh, yeah, we've had a lot of provincial changes in the last couple of years. It makes my head spin.
Set us up a bit. What are some of the core changes?
Well, like so, province of Ontario has a big stance on affordable housing and more housing faster, not more housing better, it's more housing faster. And so they've taken so we used to get development charges. I don't know if this is a universal thing, but when developers uh, want to develop, um, they have to pay money to the city to pay for infrastructure. So we're going to pay some roads that lead up to there, and we need to put in the sewers and the water mains and that sort of thing. And those things cost us money to do. And so that's a development charge. We used to be able to do this much percentage. I can't remember the numbers. This was a couple years ago, but now we can do this much percentage of the full land value or whatever it is. And it's policies like that. Yes, it can help save money on the housing market. Maybe that house is now $50,000 cheaper than it would have been had they paid those charges. But now the city is stuck. We still need to put in those pipes. We still need to put in those roads. Where is that money coming from? So then we need to figure that out. And all of a sudden, taxes are climbing, and then that makes living here, you can buy the home now, but that makes living here less affordable, that sort of thing. And there's a number of policies like this coming down in the province, and they make sense in one way, and they cause challenges in another way.
Yeah, I think it's not too dissimilar from a lot of the rezoning type of stuff that we are seeing in the US. There's big
Mhm.
implications for homeowners and business owners, and yeah, it changes or affects how we do engagement, right?
And then, yeah, so we're talking about affordability in a whole different way. And we're talking about what we can accomplish in the city in a whole different way. In the city of Guelph, we're just closing up our first of a 4-year budget. We never tried a 4-year budget before. We established this one in 2020. I can't do math, 2024. And we're starting to wrap it up. And in that time, like the provincial funding and the funding that we've gotten from development and planning sources and that sort of stuff has changed so much that this 4-year budget is out the window, and we need to re-budget every year.
Mm, well,
We're just constantly pivoting and adapting and
yeah.
needing to look at new ways to do things and leaner ways and innovative ways and be responsive to the changes, because there's been a number of projects where we'll be like halfway through the project and suddenly there's a change that comes down from the province and we need to backpedal a little bit and then start up again. And that ruins some of our trust with the community, because to a community, it's like plain language to a community member. They don't know what decision is the province, what decision is national, what decision is city, what decision is the county. They just know the government is doing things that impact them. And can we please just have a good life? That's
Yeah. And this is bringing us back to the engagement improv thing, being able
Mm,
to, think and act on our feet. We have one
all of
final
that.
question from chat that I think is a beautiful one to end our conversation on, and it's around growing cities. Guelph is one of them, where it seems like a lot of people from the region moved out, people from other cities with different set of experiences moved in. I think this is relevant to any growing city in the US as well. How do you harness this new expertise? How do you account for a new set of experiences coming in and your population changing? How does that affect engagement?
We've definitely had this since COVID, particularly. We had a lot of people leaving the larger cities and moving to Guelph just for lifestyle, and it's something that they wanted, which we're really proud of that. That's fantastic. Uh, and yet there's we've got the tried and true people, the people we know we can engage. They've lived here all their lives. Guelph is in their blood. We love them. And there's all these people who have just come in. They're getting to know Guelph. Maybe they don't know all of its history. Maybe they don't know all of the context, but they came here looking for a life. And we need to tap into what they're looking for out of their community, and then also balance that with what the tried and true, we've always loved this community people want. And it's a never ending struggle. It's a never ending balance. In Guelph in particular, we've got our south end where most of this new development is happening. That's where most of these new people have moved into. And we don't yet have a community center, that place that people come to get together, as one. We don't have a place like that. We have box mall stores, we've got schools and all these great things, but they haven't built a cohesive community. And so it's really hard to tap into them. It's hard to meet them where they're at, because where they're at is commercial enterprises. Maybe the library we can go to, but there's no meeting room at the library. It's not a gathering space in that particular space. So it's hard. We need to find the social media that group is particularly interested in, and access that and tap into what that social media is doing. We need to find what they're clicking on, what they're accessing in the media, and what their purchasing power is going to, and try to develop campaigns that speak to them and their needs. And it's been a changing landscape for sure, and our communications people are always trying new approaches to reach them. And we're always trying to find new places and spaces that we can run into them casually on the streets, and try to bring them along with us into the community. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, beautifully said. Warren, I see your hand and I'm going to get to you. And for anyone that wants to stay late and continue chatting, I think Tracy and I both have till the top of the hour. But since we're officially at time, if anyone needs to drop off, feel free. Thank you so much for spending an hour of your afternoon or your morning with us. And we'll be sure to follow up with the recording and any resources that we talked about. Hopefully, photos of Tracy's life-size Ford F-150 in bike lane. Thanks all. Warren, over to you.
Tracy, you asked me what I meant about salesmanship.
Mhm.
Um, it happens in any project proposal, because the proponents, whether it's the city or the private sector, they obviously want their project to go ahead, but they're engaging with the community in order to educate and to get feedback. And just to give you an example, Ottawa just had a new official plan adopted in 2020. And one of the pillars of the plan was to increase the livability of Ottawa, which is already a very livable city. But it was one of the things that rallied support for the official plan changes, because everybody could identify with making a city that's more livable. But it turns out when we got the first monitoring report on how the official plan has been implemented, they didn't say anything about livability, even though it was one of the pillars of the plan. So we told the city, well, why not look at ways of measuring livability and see if you're doing anything to improve it or not? And they came back and said, well, that was just to get the official plan approved. It was just to get people to sign on. I mean, this was an honest politician. I really praise them for that. In fact, I'll probably vote for him because he told the truth. They
Mm.
were selling the official plan with this slogan, a more livable city. Um, it really discouraged people when they realized that this is just salesmanship. It wasn't, they're not going to monitor it because they can't figure out how to make it look good. There are things that are deteriorating. The city's infrastructure is deteriorating. The transit system is deteriorating. Crime is going up. The things that people care about tell a different story. So I don't think that they meant it in an evil way. I think that they were sincerely trying to sell this official plan, which people bought onto, at least partly because livability matters to everybody. But it ended up being a sales job. So it really destroyed the trust of the planning department is now having to deal with all kinds of cynicism.
Oh, dear. Uh, I mean, you, you've got me questioning right now. Have I fallen into this black hole myself? Unknowingly with good intentions, like you said, this politician did. Have I condoned, that salesmanship where we don't intend to listen to the community, we don't intend to measure this thing that we've promised them? I hope not. I hope not, because like you said, we have the best of intentions, and yet here we are making policies, and sometimes things get spun. I can remember a few projects where we had our findings, we said it said XYZ, and by the time all the edits and all the reviews, these things go through 20 different reviews and cycles and versions. Some of that gets distilled or distorted a little bit by the end result. And I wonder if that might be at play a little bit there. But going in intentionally with salesmanship, I when I advise with a project manager, and one of the first questions that we always ask is what can be influenced on this project? Where are those points of influence? And some project managers say, I don't really see what the community can influence here. Then I say, then we're not engaging. If you want some sort of, numbers to back up your decision to go ahead and do the thing because that's the way it has to be based on, whatever other plans are in place, you know, I'm not going to help you with that. That's not community engagement. Community engagement is being able to influence and having a decision at the end of the day where that community voice is represented at least in part by the decision. Sure, there's other factors. There's all kinds of other factors involved, but they need to be able to see where the community impacts the decision. And outright salesmanship, outright kind of we're checking a box. We don't do that here. We just don't. It's right in our engagement framework. I encourage you guys to check out our engagement framework. We're quite proud of it. And it's right in the heart of our team. We will not do it. We will not support engagement that's checking a box.
Mhm. Yeah, Tracy, I'm so glad that you mentioned the engagement framework. I think Rachel from Salt Lake City is in the audience too.
Hi,
Having
Rachel.
that policy, that culture already, this kind of set roadmap of how we approach engagement and what we can and can't allow, or what we engage on or what we don't really clearly defined, I think will help at least quell some of that salesmanship. You might get asked, but at least you have something to point to. Like this is a framework that we're running citywide. So. Awesome. Well, I
We're
think that was
chatting.
all of the. Go ahead.
I just see another note about Ottawa in the chat. I know a couple people from Ottawa. I feel bad that that's the sentiment happening right now. I don't know. I hope
Connect
it
them
gets
with
better,
Tracy.
guys. I hope
Yeah.
it gets better.
Connect their engagement team with Tracy, maybe. Well, thank you so much for this, Tracy. It was a pleasure as always, and really enjoyed your
Fun.
insights. And I can tell from the questions too from the audience that they did as well. So we'll follow up with all of you. Thank you again for spending your time with us. And if you have any further questions for Tracy or for myself or Go Vocal, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks so much, everybody. I feel so loved. It's been fun.
Thanks all. See ya.
Bye.